Well, we have a new form, general form. Yes, sir. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Jess. Whatever. It's a major problem that you guys don't laugh at my jokes. Major problem? Yes, sir. I stole that joke from Spaceballs. Have any of you... How many beep holes have we got on this ship? Major beep hole? Good gag. I love it. All right. Okay, you're going to learn a new form today. That new form is general form. This is what it looks like. What do you notice in the new form you have just been introduced to? What do you notice that you already know how to work with? X and Y. Right? So, if I told you 2, 7, where would the 2 go? For X. Where would the 7 go? For Y. Easy peasy. Right? Now, the reason we have general form, it's just a math thing. It's tidier. Please notice there are no fractions. There are no decimals. There are no brackets. It's tidy. Mathematicians like tidy. So that's why this form exists. And what does the word, if I say something means this in general terms, what does that mean? It's just used comfortably, right? Like everybody knows what it means. General form is the form from which we can do all kinds of other stuff. I show it to you last because this is a graphing unit, and it's easier to graph the other two. Everybody cool? Now notice the next unit is writing linear functions. This is nice and easy to write, and it is very easy to do algebra with, but it's a pain in the ass to graph. Is everybody good? So that's why you're seeing it at the end of the graphing unit and the beginning of the writing unit. Everybody okay? All right. So notice there are some rules about general form. 1, A, B, and C must not be fractions. If they're not fractions, what's the other thing they're not allowed to be? Decimals. I don't want to say they must be whole numbers because we've already talked about whole numbers, and whole numbers aren't technically what you guys say are whole numbers, right? So I don't want to say that. Is everybody cool? A, B, and C can't be fractions or decimals. The next rule. A must be positive. Everybody good? Okay. And finally, number 3, this is something you need to remember. A, B, and C have no graph value. Why do they have no graph value? Because they're not X and Y. They're coefficients of X and Y. What do you need, man? What'd you lose? Your water bottle. Is it that green Gatorade bottle that was on that table? Probably. Yeah, just take it anyway. It'll hold water and I'm thirsty. Now, 2 minutes later, I left my green Gatorade water bottle in here. Some other kid, but I'll just tell them Harkira took it and they can sort it out. Are we all good? Everybody understands this last one? This is a problem. And here's why it's a problem. What is the one number in that form that has a graph value right now? 7. Right? Because y is isolated, that is the y-intercept, isn't it? So because you're used to seeing that number all by itself and thinking that's the y-intercept, when I write this, A bunch of you are going to tell me that 8 is the y-intercept. Is it? No. Why not? You're getting warmer. Pardon me? It has no graph value because y has not been isolated. A, B, and C have no graph value until you move it into another form. Is everybody cool? All right, now, what we're going to do here is we're going to work with graphs and the numbers. Just like we did in the last couple of things we've done, we've worked in algebra and in graphing. Yes? So, this is general form, yes? If I wanted to graph that, it would be a pain. Why? What is the only way we could graph this right now? What would we have two options available to us. First option you learned in the 9th grade. What would you have to do? You learned it in the 9th grade. How did you graph equations in the 9th grade? Pardon me? You would make a T-chart. And why would that be a pain? Who chooses the numbers that go in for x? Choose one. 4? Okay. So I'd write 4 there, right? 12 minus 2y plus 8 equals 0. It's a pain still, isn't it? All right, so we don't want to do a table of values. Okay, well in grade 10 you learned a good way to graph these. You learned the x and the y intercepts, yes? So you could do x comma 0 and 0 comma y, right? Okay, so if x is still in there and y is a 0, what happens here? It disappears, and I get 3x plus 8 equals 0. X equals negative 8/3. Right? Okay, we could do that. That would work. But you also have been given this form. Now, since we are in teaching mode right now, I told you what to do, because that's what I should be doing, right? If you take yellow, general form, yes sir, and convert it to slope-intercept form, we could graph it in a second, couldn't we? Because as soon as it's in slope-intercept form, what do we have? The y-intercept, which is the starting point, and then all we got to do is count, right? So how do I make this yellow equation look like this blue equation? What? Get the y what? Isolated. So let's take our yellow equation and let's isolate y. What should move? You should just move y, shouldn't you, Supin? Why? Then you don't have to move everything else, right? If I move just y, I'm going to get rid of the negative and I'm going to get y isolated, yeah? Almost isolated. So what does my next line look like? What do I need to write here? 3x plus 8 equals 2y. Now what? Divide everything by what? 2. 3 over 2 x plus 4 equals y. Now can I graph that in literally 1 second? Where do I go? Up to 4 on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what? Then what? 3 up and 2 right. Or 3 down and 2 left. And how easy was it to graph once we moved it into this form? Super easy. Everybody understand? Okay, you do number 2. This is general form's ugly cousin. standard form. Right? So ugly. Shows up at family reunions, has a crush on you, you know? Oh, you've all had that. Your like third cousin twice removed shows up at the one family reunion. You only see them once a year. Third cousin? Could you even tell me how you find a third cousin in your family tree? Can any one of you tell me how you find a third cousin? Go. Your mother's, okay. How do you find your mother's second cousin?
Your grandparents' cousin.
Your grandparents' cousin. Okay. So, where am I going with this? No, I am going to the fact that right now, there could be many third cousins in this room and none of you would have any idea. And here's how I know. When I arrived in Vancouver, when I moved to Vancouver in grade 2, I went to class. I had a good first day. My mom asked, hey, how was school on the first day? Oh, it was pretty good. I met some cool people. It was okay. One kid was really nice to me. His name was Keith. And my mom said, oh, cool. Yeah, we have 2 Keiths in the class. There's Keith Green and Keith Ramson. And my mom said, Keith Green? What? I said, yeah, Keith Green. And she says, he's your third cousin. And I'm like, no. His last name is Green. I am not related to anyone named Green. And Mom's like, he's your third cousin. Like, shut up. Yes. Your great-great-aunt is his great-great-grandma. And I'm like, no way. And then I go to school the next day and Keith comes to me and says, guess what? And I say, we're cousins. And he says, how'd you know? And I was like, because my mom told me. Well, we were in grade 2. What do you want, man? It's not scintillating conversation. And I never knew he was my third cousin. It wasn't a great story, but the point I'm trying to make is you can spend all day talking to someone and not know they're your third cousin. So, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks. See?
All right. So, what's the only difference? What's the only difference? C is moved over. It doesn't equal 0. C is moved over. Does anything else change? Graph this. What do I got to do? Isolate what? Isolate the y. So what should I move? You're going to move x? Okay. So what's my next line look like, Austin? Well, I've already got 3x minus 4y. You told me I was moving the x. So what is my next line going to look like? Negative 4y equals 8 minus 3x. That's cool. You want to write it that way? That works. Now what? Divide by negative 4 because I want to isolate y. So now I've got y equals what? Negative 2 plus 3/4 x. Now, is that pretty darn close to where I'm going? Is y isolated? So what do I know this value is? As soon as y is isolated, what do I know about that? It's what? That's my slope, right? And once y is isolated, what do I know about that? Y-intercept. How would I normally want to write this so I could see it immediately? Y equals and then I graph it. General or standard? Why am I being mean here? Pretty much. Right? Because we could put this in slope-intercept form, couldn't we? But I'm forcing you not to. I'm forcing you to use x and y intercepts. Do I have a reason? I always do. What is every x-intercept? x0. What is every y-intercept? Now work with them in there. What is this first one going to get me? 5x equals 10. What is this one going to get me? 2y equals 10. So what does x equal? 2. And what does y equal? Graph it. When x is 2, 1, 2, y is 5. Y is this point, 2, 5, not being written anywhere. I can see right there I have 2 and 5. Why don't I have a dot out here at 2, 5? Because those are my intercepts. This x equals 2 needs to work with that x. This y equals 5 needs to work with that y. Now, I'm going to say this. A bunch of you aren't going to listen. It's the end of the year. I'm tired of trying to talk over the people that don't want to listen, so I'm just going to say it out nice and slow, quietly, see if people shut up. This skill, no, I lie because it's not a skill. Anybody can do it. This concept is absolutely integral to higher math. All math starts easy. 3 apples plus 2 apples leads us to factoring trinomials, doesn't it? Right? It does. You must be comfortable with this. You must be able to understand that x equals 2 means I can put that there. The next step from this is something like this. X equals 2m plus 5. So what could I put there? 2m plus 5. Which we did in factoring as well. Everybody cool? You have seen me do this in every unit all the way along. Why? Because it's a skill you're going to need going on. This has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, Anu. It's the concept. If I say x equals anything and you see an x, I can put it there. All right, turn the page over. Somebody say a number between -9 and 0.
-7.
Somebody please say a number between 0 and 9.
7.
Stop. Excellent. Now somebody say a number between 0 and 9.
2.
And give me a number between 0 and -9.
-6.
All right. Now, what do you have right here? Oh, crap. I shouldn't use green. And what do I have here? I can't use blue. Yes? Everybody cool? All right. Now, I want an example of the equation of a line. There's your information in each form. What are the 4 forms? How are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve this? What should we start with? Find the slope. Why is finding slope a good idea, Toby? Because now I have an m and an m, right? And doesn't that allow me to find slope? Great. So how will I find it? So what is it? So what numbers are going here? 7 plus 6 over negative 4 minus 2. What is it? 13 over negative 6. Yes? What letter is that? Now, which one of these can we work with? What's the easiest one to go to? The second one. Why? So I don't have to figure out the y-intercept. So this becomes our number one spot, yes? What is special about y1 and x1? This is what I reviewed at the very beginning of the class. They're known values. How many known values do I have? I got 4, 2x and 2y's. Does it matter which one I use? Tell me if this is right. Don't write it down, just tell me if it's right. Is that right or wrong? Wrong. Why is it wrong? One person, please. I got the wrong pairs together, don't I? Is plus 6 okay? Minus 6. Is it okay to put a plus 6 there? So that's okay, but then what would this have to be? Minus 2. Is the plus 4 okay? Then what would this have to be? Minus 7. Okay, good. Everybody's cool. So how many correct answers are there for the slope point form when I have 2? There's 2 correct answers. What are they? Y plus 6 equals negative 13 sixths x minus 2, or y minus 7 equals negative 13 sixths x plus 4. Everybody happy? Now, where do you think we should go next? Where would you go next? Hazel? Slope-intercept? Hazel, are you on a vow of silence or something? Yes. Really? Did somebody jinx her and nobody said her name? I said her name so she could talk. No, it's okay. With whom? You're against each other. Hey, can you guys get in on this? Oh. See what I did there? That was funny, right? Yes, sir. Anyway, okay, sorry, Hazel and Ken, I'll respect your personal boundaries, and I won't talk to you or try to get you to talk, because I have no skin in that game. I don't care who wins this bet, so I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go back to somebody who is speaking right now. Or somebody would like to back Hazel up. Hazel says we should go to slope-intercept form. Should we? Okay, let's do so. What is the difference between slope-intercept form and point-slope form? What's the difference between that, son of a bee, that, and that? Okay, but how will I find that? How do I get this to look like this? You could do that. You absolutely could do that. You could make this y value, this x value what? 0. Is there something else he could do? How do you know you're in slope-intercept form? How do you know you're in slope-intercept form? Pardon me, Jesse? Yeah. Y is isolated, and there's no brackets. So, Toby, we have your option, make x 0 to find the y-intercept, or do algebra until I have no brackets and y is by itself. They're equally difficult or equally easy, depending on how you want to talk about it. All right? If I were to do my way, which is isolate y, what would have to happen with this 7? It would have to come over here, and I would have y equals negative 13/6 x plus 4, just x plus 4, plus 7, yes? Is this blue yet? No, what's in the way? Brackets. So y would equal negative 13/6 x, yes? Minus 52/6 plus 7. Wouldn't it? Because that would distribute, yes? Agreed? All right, well, 52/6 is 8 2/3, isn't it? Isn't it? So negative 8 2/3 plus 7 is negative 1 2/3, right? So I would have y equals negative 13/6 x minus 1 2/3. And then I'd have it. Now what if I did Toby's version? I make this 0 and I would just do the algebra anyway. Everybody cool? All right. So then the question becomes, how do I get that to... Does it matter which one of these I do? Doesn't matter, does it? Because once I have one, I automatically have the other, right? It's only the C that hops. Which one do you want to work with? Please say the right one. Please say it. No, just trust me. Yes, sir! Yes! Thanks, brother. So, I take this. How do I make this look like this? No, I've already used blue. I've already used yellow. What would have to happen? What over here bothers me? There's fractions. Are there any fractions over here, Austin? No. So what do I got to do to these fractions? How do I get rid of a fraction in algebra? Multiply it, right? Do I multiply by 3? Do I multiply by 6? Or do I multiply by something else? I can multiply by 6 because 6 will take care of the 3, won't it? But what should I do to this before? I should make it improper, shouldn't I? So this is now 5/3, correct? And what am I going to multiply by? 6. If I multiply the right side by 6, what do I got to do to the left side? Same thing. 6y equals, what happens to this 6 and this 6? Cancel. So I got negative 13x. 6, what happens to this 6 and this 3? Which one disappears? The 3, what does the 6 become? 2. And what do the 2 and the 5 do? Minus 10. Is this almost this? What's the only things that need to move? I got to move the x over. Why, Toby? They all got to be on the same side, and x has to be positive. 13x plus 6y plus 10 equals 0, and 13x plus 6y equals negative 10. And there are all 4 forms. What did we use? We used algebra. Are all 4 of those forms the exact same thing? Yes. No matter what they look like in algebra, what will they look like on the graph? It'll look the same. No matter which one of those I choose to graph, they are all following the same line. Is everyone cool with that? All right. So, I'm being mean because it's teaching time, right? Normally, do I care what you do with the math as long as you get the right answer? No. But I want you to be able to do everything. So, what do I have here? What is that? Point slope. What do I want? What is general form? Yes, sir. What has to disappear from the pink to get me to that? So, brackets have to disappear, and what else? The 2/3 or just the thirds part of it? And the denominator, right? Now, you need to think about this because, again, if you have just been following steps, you're going to screw yourself over as you go further and further in math. Since, I don't remember who said it, and it's not wrong, somebody said they wanted to get rid of brackets first, which means what would I do here? I would distribute this in, correct? Now, that means I'm distributing a fraction in, which isn't very hard in this case, is it? It wasn't, was it? 2/3 times 2 is 4/3. We can do that in our head. But up here, wouldn't it have been a bit of a pain, or wasn't it a bit of a pain to distribute that fraction in here? Because 52 and 6 didn't work together very well, did they? So let's see what happens if we get rid of our denominator first. What is the denominator that we must get rid of? 3. How would I get rid of divided by 3? So if I multiply this whole side by 3, what do I got to do over here? Well, that distributes nicely, doesn't it? What's the left side going to become? 3y minus 12. And what happens to that 3 and that 3? They disappear, leaving me with what? 2x plus 2. Doesn't that distribute nicely? And what do I get? So easy, yes? Don't distribute fractions. They're a pain. Get rid of them. Especially since you knew you got to get rid of it in the end anyway. Get rid of it now. Now, what moves here? I'm going to move the 12 over because everything's got to be on the same side. Why did you choose to move the 12 from the left to the right instead of leaving the 12 there? It's less work. Why? Well, we're not trying to isolate y. We want general form. What has to be positive in general form? The x, right? Is he already positive? So we're not going to touch him. So this is coming over here, and what's it become? Plus 12 to equal 16, yes. And this guy's coming over too, isn't he? And becomes what? So 2x minus 3y plus 16 equals what? Is that correct? Is this correct? Yes. Is this correct? No, why not? Because x is negative. That's wrong. Everybody cool? Okay, you try it on number 12. I want all three other forms. Is there a smart order to do this in? Yes, there is. Who should find that smart order? You should, because you have all the tools needed.
Mr. Myers, you don't have a box of protractors, do you? By chance?
I might have an envelope of transparent photo or protractors. Oh yeah, I used to have 10 calculators too, but I teach here. There's a bunch. Those are ones I bought. They're making mine off. No, I've done it. Yeah, sorry, Dan.
Sorry, I'll get back to it. No worries.
So, who's starting with what? You want to start with general form? Okay. So what would you do? The question we just did, right? So let's get rid. We're going to just get rid of the 2. I would get rid of the negative 2. Why? Because I need that x to be positive, yeah? So I'm going to multiply by 2 here, but I also want to kill the negative. So what should I really multiply by? Negative 2. What should I do on the other side? Negative 2, same thing. So what do I get? Negative 2y minus 6 equals? No. X minus 1. Now what? Why should I move the y and the 6? Because other way around. Because x is already positive. So x is plus 2y, and then what? Plus what? Plus 5 equals what? 0. What's that? Yes, sir. What's that? Ugly cousin standard form. How do I work with them to get to slope-intercept form? I just isolate y. So 2y equals negative x minus 5. Then what? Right? Y equals negative 1/2 x minus somebody tell me what to write here. Nothing bad happened. 30 of the best and brightest. Somebody can tell me what to write here. Write it down for somebody else so you can do it without speaking. Because you're apparently the only two in the class that can simplify anything. What is it, Toby? 2.5, well, 5 over 2, because you've divided everything by 2. Now, this is where I have to fix this up. Is this all right? Is that okay? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. Yep. Is this okay? I'm just going to keep looking at you. You're going to keep nodding and keep shaking your head. Decide on one. Is this okay? Yes, of course it is. Is the gray one okay? Yes, of course it is. Is the green one okay? Yes. Is the pink one okay? Oh, yes. Okay, good. What was the point of all of that? No, not to confuse you. It's actually to dispel confusion. This is what beats A squared, B squared, C squared. Oh, I can't do it. Use P, Q, and R. You need to see various forms of things to understand that it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's the same values. All right. Well, that was a fun class. Do page 250. Answers are on page 251. You will be having a test on this unit this week. I don't know when. It depends on how long it takes you to do the reviews. Go.